Chapter 1. I died on a Saturday in November. The crash happened at 11:14 p.m. on the motorway outside the city. I know the time because I had looked at my phone 30 seconds before impact. I had been looking at the photos, the ones I was not supposed to find. My name is Lena, and I was 28 years old, and I had been engaged to Marcus Hale for 14 months, and I had loved him for 3 years before that. 4 years total. 4 years of believing something that was not true. I found the photos on a Thursday. I had been using his laptop to send a document to my own email because my phone was charging and the document was urgent. His photo library was open. I was not looking. The photos were there. There were 47 of them, with a woman named Jess, a woman I knew, a woman who had been in our social circle for 2 years and who had sat across from me at dinner tables and smiled at me and asked about the wedding plans. The oldest photo was dated 14 months ago. 14 months ago was when Marcus had proposed. I did not confront him on Thursday. I needed to think. I was a person who thought before acting, and I needed to understand what I was going to do with what I now knew. So I went through the next 2 days pretending. I was very good at pretending. I had apparently been living inside a pretense for 14 months without knowing it, so pretending for 2 more days was the smaller version of something I had already been doing. On Saturday, I got in my car at 11 at night. I was not going anywhere specific. I was driving because driving was what I did when I needed to think, and I needed to think more than I had ever needed to think in my life. I do not know if I was distracted. I do not know if I made a mistake or if the other car made the mistake or if it was the rain on the road. What I know is that at 11:14 p.m. on the motorway, there was a sound I had never heard before and a feeling I cannot describe, and then nothing. The nothing lasted a long time. And then it did not. Chapter 2. I woke up to sunlight. This was wrong. The crash had been at night. The nothing had been dark. Sunlight was not what came after nothing. I was in a bed, my bed, the bed in the flat I shared with Marcus. The duvet was the one I had chosen 2 years ago. The ceiling was the ceiling I had looked at 10,000 times. The light coming through the curtains was the specific quality of morning light in that room. I sat up. My body did not hurt. There was nothing. No pain, no injury, no hospital. Just my bedroom at whatever time in the morning the light suggested. I looked at my hands. They were fine. They were my hands. I looked at the bedside table. My phone was there. I picked it up. The date on the phone was the 14th of September. I put the phone down. I picked it up again. The date was still the 14th of September. The 14th of September was my wedding day. Not the day I had died. I had died in November. November was 2 months after September, 2 months after today. I got out of bed. My legs worked. Everything worked. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and I was 28, and my hair was the same, and my face was the same, and there was a bruise on my left shoulder from where I had walked into the corner of the kitchen counter 3 days ago. 3 days ago in my memory, in the life I had just come from. I put my hand over the bruise. It was real. It hurt when I pressed it. I sat down on the bathroom floor. I had 47 photos on a laptop that had not yet been opened. I had 2 months before a crash that had not yet happened. I had a wedding in approximately 6 hours to a man who had been cheating on me for 14 months and who I had planned to confront and had not gotten the chance to. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time. Then I stood up. I washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I said out loud to myself that I was not going to marry him. Then I went to make coffee and think about what I was going to do. Chapter 3. The wedding was at 3 in the afternoon. I had until 3. I made coffee and I sat at the kitchen table and I thought about what I knew and what I was going to do with it. Marcus was not in the flat. He had stayed at his brother's the night before, the traditional separation before the wedding. I was alone, and that was good. I needed to be alone. I thought about the photos. I had the memory of them. I knew they existed. I had not yet found them in this version of events because his laptop was closed on the desk and I had not touched it. In this version, it was still Thursday. No, it was Saturday now, the wedding day. In 2 days, it would be Thursday in the original timeline. In 2 days, I would find the photos if I looked. I did not need to look. I already knew. I thought about Jess. I thought about 2 years of dinners and her smile and her asking about the wedding plans. I thought about what it meant that she had been doing that, the specific quality of that betrayal, not just Marcus, both of them, the layers of it. I thought about the crash. I did not know for certain that not confronting Marcus would prevent the crash. I had not been confronting him when the crash happened. I had been thinking about confronting him. I had been driving to clear my head before I confronted him. The crash might have been entirely unrelated to any of it. I did not care. I was not going to marry him regardless. My phone started ringing. My mother, I let it ring. Then my maid of honor, I let that ring too. Then my sister. I picked up for my sister. I told her I needed her to come over. I told her not to tell anyone. I told her it was important. She was there in 20 minutes. Her name was Priya, and she had been my sister for 26 years, and when she came in and looked at my face, she said what happened. I told her everything, about the photos, about the Thursday in the other life where I had found them, about the crash, about waking up. She was quiet for a long time, then she said she believed me. She said she did not understand it, and she believed me anyway. She said I had never lied to her in 26 years. I said I needed help. She said, what do you need? I said I needed to not get married today, and I needed Marcus to not know that I knew about the photos yet. I needed time to do this properly, not in a panic, not in a 6-hour window before a wedding I was canceling. Priya said all right. She said she would handle it. She said she had always thought there was something wrong with him. I asked why she had not said anything. She said because I had been happy. She said she had not been certain enough to say something that would have hurt me if she was wrong. I sat with that. Then we started making calls. Chapter 4. I did not cancel the wedding dramatically. I postponed it. That was the word I used. Medical emergency in the family. Unspecified. The venue was understanding. The caterers less so, but Priya handled them. The guests were sent a message. The wedding was postponed indefinitely pending a family situation. Marcus called 17 times. I spoke to him once. I said there had been an emergency and the wedding could not happen today, and I would explain everything when I could. I said it calmly. I was very calm. I had died once. After dying, most things felt very manageable. He said he loved me. He said whatever it was, they would face it together. I said I knew. I said I would call him soon. I did not call him soon. Over the next week, I did 3 things. The first was that I gathered the evidence, not from his laptop. I hired someone, a professional, the kind that found things that people thought were hidden. She found everything. The photos and the messages and the hotel receipts and the credit card statements. 2 years of it. The relationship with Jess had started 2 months before he proposed to me. He had proposed while actively in a relationship with someone else. The second thing I did was talk to a lawyer. My friend Kane recommended her. Kane was a barrister and knew everyone in law in the city, and when I called him and said I needed a recommendation for someone who handled asset separation and potential fraud cases, he said he would make some calls and did not ask questions. He did not ask questions. That was important. He just helped. The third thing I did was find the flat, a 1-bedroom in a different part of the city. I signed the lease before I said anything to Marcus. I wanted somewhere to go before the confrontation. I was not going to be standing in a space that was also his when everything came apart. Then I called Marcus. I told him I knew. I told him I had the evidence. I told him that the engagement was over and that I would be sending documents through a solicitor. I told him he had 1 week to arrange alternative accommodation for himself because I was moving out of the flat and he was not welcome to stay in it alone since my name was on the lease. He said various things. I did not particularly listen to the various things. I had already said what I needed to say. Then I ended the call and I sat in Priya's flat where I had been staying, and I was very quiet for a long time. Then I started the next part. Chapter 5. I had known Kane for 4 years. He had been Marcus's friend first. That was how I had met him. He had been at the dinner where Marcus and I had our second date. He had been at most of the group dinners after that. He was part of the social world that Marcus and I had shared, and I had filed him as such. Marcus's friend, part of the group, a barrister, dry sense of humor, did not talk much at parties, read in the corner at gatherings that were too loud for him. I had not thought about him specifically in 4 years. He had been background, present and peripheral, and not particularly considered. After the breakup, he called to check on me. This surprised me. I had expected to lose most of the mutual friends to the Marcus side of things. Mutual friends tended to align when couples split, and Marcus had been in the group longer than I had. Kane called on the Wednesday after I had confronted Marcus. He said he had heard things were difficult and he wanted to check in if that was all right. I said it was all right. He said, was there anything I needed? He said it practically, not the performative offer of help that people made when they expected you to say no, the actual question. I said, actually, yes. I said I had moved into a new flat, and it had some things that needed sorting that I did not have the energy for. I said I did not suppose he was practical in that direction. He said he was extremely practical. He said he would come Saturday if that worked. He came Saturday. He fixed a curtain rail that the previous tenant had installed incorrectly, and a kitchen cabinet that would not close properly, and a bathroom tap that dripped. He did all of this without making anything of it, without performing helpfulness, just doing what needed doing, and then sitting down in my kitchen and accepting the tea I made. We talked for 3 hours, not about Marcus, not about any of it, about other things, his work, a case he was preparing that he found genuinely interesting, a book he had just read, what I was going to do with the graphic design business I had been running alongside the relationship, and that now I could actually focus on properly. He asked good questions about the design business, the kind that required him to have actually thought about what I had said rather than just heard it. I noticed this. I was noticing things about him that I had not noticed in 4 years of him being background. Pale skin and black hair and green eyes that were paying the full quality of their attention to what I said, a quality of stillness that was not disengagement, the specific kind of stillness of someone who was thinking rather than waiting. He said at the end of the 3 hours that the flat was looking better. I said yes. He said he had enjoyed the afternoon. I said so had I and meant it more than I expected to. He said he would check in next week. He did. Chapter 6. October was the month I rebuilt. I had a month before November, before the motorway. I did not know if the crash would still happen. I had changed everything. I was not with Marcus. I was not driving on that motorway at 11:14 p.m. on a Saturday in November in distress. The crash had been the result of a specific state of mind on a specific night. That state of mind no longer existed. I had changed the conditions. The crash could not repeat the same way, but I was still careful. I did not drive at night on motorways for the entire month of November. This was not rational. It was what I did. The graphic design business had been neglected for the last year of the engagement. I had been putting Marcus's life first without fully realizing it. The business had 3 clients when I started properly focusing on it in October. By the end of the month, it had 7. I was working in a way I had not worked in years, with the specific energy of someone who has been given time back that they thought they had lost. Priya came for dinner twice a week. She helped. She said things like, I told you so, very gently, and with love, and I let her because she had earned it. Kane checked in on Wednesdays. Sometimes it was a text. Sometimes it was a call. 3 times in October it was dinner. The first time was his suggestion. The second time was mine. The third time was both of us realizing at the same moment that we were both free on Thursday and that the last 2 dinners had been worth repeating. I was paying attention to him now. I had not paid attention before, and I was making up for it. He was careful. That was the first thing I understood about him specifically. Not cautious. Careful. There was a difference. Cautious was about avoiding things. Careful was about doing things right. He was careful with his words and with his cases and with the people he was responsible to and with how he was in the world. He had not aligned with Marcus after the split. I asked him about this on the 3rd dinner. I asked directly because I was not interested in not asking things directly anymore. I had not asked things directly for 4 years, and I was done with that. He said Marcus was not someone he had ever been close to. He said they had been in the same group, but closeness was not the same as proximity. He said he had always found Marcus charming in the specific way of people who had practiced being charming rather than actually being it. I said I wished I had seen that. He said it was harder to see from the inside. I said I knew that now. He looked at me across the dinner table, green eyes with the full quality of his attention. He said I seemed different from how I had seemed before. I said I was different. He said different how? I said I was paying attention now. I said I had not been paying attention before. I said I had been looking at the wrong things. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said he had noticed. I asked what he had noticed. He said he had noticed that I was looking at him differently. He said it directly because he was a direct person. He said he was mentioning it because he thought I should know that he had noticed and that he did not mind it. I looked at him. I said I did not mind that he had noticed. We finished dinner, he walked me home. At my door we stood for a moment. He said good night. I said good night. He went home, I went inside and I stood in my flat, and I thought about Green Eyes noticing that I was looking differently and not minding. I thought about it for a long time. Chapter 7. November arrived. I was careful, I was calm. I had changed everything and I knew I had changed everything, but November felt different anyway, like walking through a room where something had happened and the room remembered even when you were trying to forget. The crash date was the 14th, a Saturday. I had a plan for the 14th. I was going to be at Priya's for dinner. I was going to stay overnight. I was not going to be on any motorways at any time on that day. Kane called on the 13th. He said he was checking in. He said, how was I? I said I was fine. I said tomorrow was a date I was aware of for reasons that were complicated to explain. He said he did not need the explanation. He said, did I want company tomorrow? I said I was going to Priya's. He said, all right. He said, call him if I needed anything. I said I would. He said one more thing. He said he had been thinking about the dinner conversation. He said specifically the part where I had said I was looking at the wrong things before. I said yes. He said he had also been looking at the wrong things. He said in 4 years of the same group and the same dinners he had been looking at what was in front of him and not at what was worth looking at. I said what was worth looking at. He was quiet for a moment, then he said me. The flat was very quiet. I said I thought we should have dinner again soon. He said yes, he said Saturday, he said this Saturday. I said Saturday I was at Priya's. He said Sunday then. I said Sunday. He said good night. I said good night. The 14th came. I went to Priya's. We had dinner and watched something on television, and I fell asleep on her sofa at 11, and she put a blanket over me, and in the morning when I woke up it was the 15th. I was alive. I lay on Priya's sofa under the blanket, and I was so glad to be alive that I could not speak for a moment, not because I had been afraid, because I had been carrying the knowledge of November for 2 months, and now November was behind me, and I was still here, and the weight of the carrying was suddenly gone. I texted Kane. I said I was still here and Sunday was on. He replied in 3 minutes. He said good. He said he was glad. I said so was I. Chapter 8. He cooked. His flat was in Islington. I had never been there before. It was the flat of someone who lived in it seriously. Books everywhere in the specific chaos of someone who actually read rather than displayed. A kitchen that had been used. A sofa that was comfortable rather than attractive. I looked at the books. I spent 20 minutes looking at them while he cooked. He let me look without commentary, which was the right response. Some people were uneasy when you looked at their books too long. He was not. I found one that I had read, 2 that I wanted to read, 3 that I had not known existed, and that looked exactly like things I would find interesting. I said his shelves were good. He said he had been collecting them for 15 years. I said it showed. He said, was that good or bad? I said it was very good. He said, all right. Dinner was good. He was a competent cook in the specific way of someone who cooked, because they enjoyed eating well rather than because they enjoyed performing. The food was not elaborate. It was exactly what it needed to be. We talked through dinner and after it. We moved to the sofa because the kitchen table was fine, but the sofa was better for the kind of conversation we were having, which was the kind that did not need the formality of a table. He asked about the other life. He called it that without irony, the other life. I had told him about it in pieces across the month of October, and he had received it the way he received most things, with attention and without requiring it to make more sense than it made. He asked what I had understood from having it. I said several things. I said I had understood that the 4 years with Marcus had cost me things I had not noticed losing. Small things, the way I had been with my work, the way I had been with Priya, the way I had been with myself. He said, what else? I said I had understood that I had been terrible at paying attention to things that were not immediately in front of me demanding it. I said I had been reacting to what was loud rather than looking at what was real. He said what was real. I said he was. He was very still. I said he had been real for 4 years, and I had not looked at him properly once. I said I found that remarkable, and also something I was not going to waste any more time on. He said, what did I mean by not waste more time? I said I meant that I had been given something extraordinary, a second chance at a life I had made badly. I was not going to make it badly again by being slow about the things that mattered. He looked at me, pale skin and black hair and green eyes that were doing the full attending thing. He said he had been slow about things for 4 years too. He said he had noticed me in the first year and had looked away because Marcus was there, and you did not look at someone who was with someone else. I said Marcus was not there anymore. He said no, he said he was aware. I reached across the sofa and put my hand in his. He held it. His hand was warm, and his grip was the grip of someone who had been careful about things for a long time and was choosing not to be careful about this. I said I was glad I had come back. He said he was glad I had come back too. He said he did not entirely understand it, and he was glad anyway. I said that was the right response. He said he thought so. We stayed on the sofa for a long time. The city outside did its Sunday evening thing. Inside, the flat was warm and the books were on the shelves and his hand was in mine, and it was nothing like what I had had before, and it was exactly right. Chapter 9. What we built was different from what I had built before in every way that mattered. The most obvious difference was honesty. I had not been dishonest with Marcus exactly, but I had not been entirely honest either. I had softened things. I had managed my opinions and my ambitions and my frustrations to fit around him. I had not done it consciously. It had accumulated across 4 years in small adjustments, each of which had felt reasonable at the time. With Cain, I did not soften anything, not because I was trying not to, because there was no need to. He did not require softening. He asked what I thought and expected the actual answer. When I was frustrated, I said I was frustrated, and he did not treat it as a problem to be managed. When I was wrong about something, he said so, and when he was wrong, I said so, and neither of us made anything of it. It was the easiest thing I had ever done. That surprised me. I had expected something new to require effort. This did not require effort. It required presence, attention. Those things were not the same as effort. His cases were interesting to me. I had not expected that. Law had not been interesting to me before, but the way he talked about his cases was the way he talked about everything, with the full quality of his engagement, and full engagement was contagious. I found myself actually thinking about the things he described. Sometimes I said something that was useful. He said so when it was, and said it was not useful when it was not, and both responses felt like the same thing, which was being taken seriously. My design work was better in the months after. I thought about this. I thought about why. The work itself had not changed. I had changed how I was doing it, more deliberately, more specifically. I had started doing the work I wanted to do rather than the work I thought I should be doing. Cain had asked me once early on what the difference was between the work I liked and the work I took because I thought I should, and the question had stayed with me. I had started turning down the should work, and it had not cost me the way I expected. I told him about the crash eventually, the full version, not the pieces, the whole thing, what it had felt like to find the photos on Thursday, what it had felt like to drive on Saturday night, what I remembered of the impact. He listened to all of it without flinching. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said I had been given something remarkable. He said it simply, not trying to make it mean something it did not mean, just acknowledging it. I said I knew. He said I had used it well. I said I was trying to. He said he thought so. The Marcus situation resolved itself legally over 3 months. It was not clean. Legal things rarely were. But by January it was done and the documentation was signed, and that part of my life was concluded. I did not think about Marcus much. This surprised people who expected me to be angrier or more affected. I was not angry. I had been angry in the other life in the 60 seconds between finding the photos and getting in the car. In this life, I had had 2 months to process it before it happened, and by the time I confronted him, the anger had become something colder and more useful. What I felt was relief, not because the relationship was over, because I had been given the chance to end it correctly, to end it with information and preparation rather than in pieces on the side of a motorway. I was alive. That was the thing I came back to when everything else felt complicated. I was alive, and I was paying attention this time. Chapter 10. He said it first. January, we were in my flat. I had made dinner for once, which I was better at than he expected, and we were on my sofa with wine, and the city outside was doing its January thing, which in London was cold and dark and persistent. He said he had been thinking about something. I said, all right. He said in 4 years of knowing me at a distance, he had had an impression of me, not wrong exactly, but incomplete. He said the person he had known peripherally for 4 years and the person he had been spending time with for 4 months were the same person and also very different. I said, how? He said the person he had known before was present but contained. He said the person he knew now was present and not contained. He said he found the difference significant. I said I found him significant. He was quiet, then he said he was in love with me. He said it simply, the way he said everything that mattered, without qualification and without managing how it landed. I looked at him, pale skin and black hair and green eyes that were fully open, not managing anything, just looking at me. I said I had come back from the dead, and the first thing I had done was make sure I did not marry the wrong person, and the second thing I had done was start paying attention to the right one. I said I loved him. I said it simply back. It was the simplest true thing. He reached across and took my face in his hands the way you did when something mattered to you completely. He held it for a moment and just looked at me. Then he kissed me, not the first time, but the first time since we had said it, the first time that was the full version of the thing rather than the approaching version. The flat was warm, the wine was on the table. Outside London was being January. Inside we were in the specific version of a night that you knew while it was happening was one of the ones that mattered. I thought about the motorway, about 11:14 p.m. on a Saturday in November, about the nothing. I thought about waking up to sunlight. I thought about what Priya had said on the morning of the wedding that was not a wedding. She had said she believed me without understanding it. She had said she always thought something was wrong. I thought about 4 years of background becoming foreground, about green eyes that had noticed me noticing and not minded, about someone who, when I had called needing a recommendation, had made calls without asking questions. I was glad, that was the word, not relieved, not grateful, not lucky, glad, the specific active version of it that was not about what had been given to me but about what I had done with it. I had come back, I had paid attention, I had chosen correctly this time. That was everything. Epilogue. The 14th of September comes around again a year later. Last year on this date, I had woken up in a bed that was the wrong bed in a life I had been living badly. I had sat on a bathroom floor and said out loud that I was not going to get married. This year on this date, I am in my flat making coffee. The flat is better than it was a year ago. There are more books on the shelves now because some of his have migrated across. There is a curtain rail he fixed that is still correctly installed. There is a kitchen cabinet that still closes properly. He stayed last night. This is a thing that happens now with the specific frequency of something that has become part of the ordinary rhythm of two people who have decided they want to be in each other's ordinary rhythm. He is in the living room reading something for a case. I can hear the specific quality of silence that was a person reading. I make 2 coffees and I carry them through, and he looks up when I come in, and the green eyes do the warm thing they did, and I hand him his coffee and sit beside him. He says, "Good morning." I say, "Good morning." He says, "What is the date?" I say, "The 14th. He is quiet for a moment. He knows what the 14th is. I told him the full version of everything months ago. He takes my hand, not dramatically, just takes it the way he took it on the Sunday in November, the grip of someone who had been careful for a long time and was choosing not to be careful about this. I hold his hand. I think about the wedding that was not a wedding, about Marcus and Jess and 47 photos, about a motorway at 11:14 p.m. and the nothing and the sunlight. I think about waking up on this date a year ago and sitting on a bathroom floor and saying I was not going to marry him. I think about Kane being background for 4 years and what it cost me not to look. I think about looking now, about paying attention now, about the specific extraordinary ordinary pleasure of a Sunday morning in January when someone said something true and I said something true back and the flat was warm and it was the full version of the thing rather than the approaching version. He says something. He says he is glad the wedding did not happen. I say, so am I. He says he is glad I came back. I say, so am I. He says he is glad I started paying attention. I say I am glad he noticed that I was. He says he noticed. I say I know. The morning is the 14th of September. A year ago it was the worst morning. Today it is just a morning. A good one. The coffee is good and the flat is warm and the books are on the shelves and he is beside me. That is everything. That is more than enough. I came back, I paid attention, I chose correctly. That is the whole story.